The snap. McKenzie kicks it. It is long enough. McKenzie kicks it. It is good. The ball game is over.
And the handoff given to Randall with blocker. Swings out to the right. Cuts down over the 20 to 15. The 10 to 5. Touchdown West Virginia.
Mountaineers down by 4. Here's Walker. Walker left side. Walker. Tom Walker score. Mountaineers lead.
Studstill firing for the end zone. And a catch to the end zone. Touchdown West Virginia as the ball is pulled in by Ed Hill. Holy smokes.
17-14. That's what the scoreboard has read at the end of 4 of the greatest victories in Mountaineer football history. Pitt in 1975, Penn State in 1984, Miami and Boston College in 1993. Now, each of these games was against tough, nationally ranked opposition. Each contest was a true defensive struggle, and each eventually propelled West Virginia into the nation's limelight and the bowl game. In the entire history of Mountaineer football, these 4 wins might not be considered the biggest ever. You could argue about that all night. But for sure, these were 4 of the most exciting and satisfying football victories ever. So let's start with 1975 on a magnificent afternoon at Old Mountaineer Field against our oldest and most hated rivals, the Pitt Panthers.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A jam-packed house for the West Virginia Pitt game on the campus of West Virginia University.
Pitt was coming into Morgantown that year with a number 20 ranking and a 6-2 record, the same as the Mountaineers. ABC thought enough of the matchup to televise it to a regional audience. And 35,000 pumped-up West Virginia fans seemed to sense that a special day was in store at Mountaineer Field. The parry and thrust of a defensive game was evident in the first half. There was little offensive excitement, though West Virginia came close to a safety. But at the half, the scoreboard remained blank for both teams. The defense still dominated until late in the third quarter. WVU took a Pitt turnover and punched over for the first score of the game. West Virginia led 7-0. But Pitt responded quickly when Gordon Jones pulled in a pass from Matt Cavanaugh to tie the score at 7. Unlike the first 3 quarters, the scoring came fast and furious in the fourth. After Pitt scored to tie the game, the Mountaineers struck right back, with Artie Owens going 23 yards for the touchdown and the WVU lead. Again, Pitt struck back to tie and was driving for the go-ahead score when Steve Dunlap picked off a Cavanaugh pass to send the Mountaineers back on offense. WVU drove to the Pitt 20, sending the crowd to a fever pitch. But Ron Lee's fumble ended that drive, and a 14-all tie looked to be the final score. Pitt deep in its own territory with under a minute to play. Coach Johnny Majors playing it close and safe, punting away to West Virginia with 18 seconds left. The Mountaineers had one last shot at a victory. Now 10 seconds on the clock. Danny Kendra back, and somehow he finds Randy Swinson open on the sideline. Swinson makes the catch of his life and scampers out of bounds with 4 seconds remaining. It's Bill McKenzie's turn to make history.
From the 28, it will be a 38-yard attempt. The snap. McKenzie kicks it. It is long enough. McKenzie kicks it. It is good. The ball game is over. McKenzie kicks a 38-yard field goal in the final play of the football game.
McKenzie never saw the ball go through the uprights. He had concentrated so hard on the kick that he never looked up from where his holder had placed the ball. A celebration that went on all night started right there in the middle of Mountaineer Field. Bill McKenzie made a grand total of 4 field goals in 1975. 2 of them were game winners, but this one sent joy throughout the state. This field goal was the one that beat Pitt. West Virginia 17, Pitt 14.
That's one of the most exciting wins I've ever been involved with in my life.
It's a little less than 9 years later, and West Virginia is up against another great rival, Penn State. Pitt may be our oldest and most hated rival, But we had, through the years, beaten the Panthers. Against Penn State, it had been 28 years of frustration. Not since 1955 had West Virginia beaten State. Back in the days before face masks and AstroTurf, when players performed on both sides of the ball. The week before, the Mountaineers had come from 14 points down at the half to defeat nationally ranked Boston College and Doug Flutie 21-20. On this warm, late October night, fans were still abuzz over that victory and thirsting for more. Initially, the record crowd of just under 65,000 looked to be getting its wish. WVU took the opening kickoff and drove to the Penn State 8 before losing the ball on downs. But after a Penn State punt, the Mountaineers moved for the opening score. Kevin White, big to Gary Mullen. John Gay, twice with long runs. And Ron Wolfley going over from the 2. 7-0 West Virginia. Penn State's DJ Dozier made it 7-7, bursting through the middle of the West Virginia defense just before halftime. Defense was the order in the third quarter. The score remained tied at 7, and WVU fans got ready for another tight finish. 2 plays into the final period, Paul Woodside split the uprights from 49 yards out to give West Virginia the lead at 10-7. Then John Moses handed the Mountaineers a gift they so much wanted, the ball. It all came down to this: the streak, 28 years old. Was this where it was going to end?
And the handoff given to Randall with blocker, swings out to the right, cuts down over the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, West Virginia. Goal, Pat Scott Barrows with a block for the Mountaineers. Barrows pulling and leading the blocking, and Pat Randolph racing into the end zone.
Pat Randolph's touchdown sealed it. Penn State came back and scored, making it close. But at long last, West Virginia had defeated the Nittany Lions of Penn State. WVU's long-suffering fans had waited 28 years for this. They stormed the field, basking in the sweet joy of knowing that, finally, the Mountaineers had beaten the Nittany Lions.
That was a great, great, great job. We won because we hung. Every guy was in that game every single minute. Remember Thursday night when we talked about injuries? Tell me what Larry Holly and Rich Rodriguez, tell me what they did. Tell me what Todd Fisher. Amen. It doesn't matter who plays.
It seems the great 17-14 wins have come in 9-year cycles, from 1975 to 1984, and then to 1993. But 93 was special, a double dip of the greatest football games in Mountaineer football history, regardless of the score. These 2 wins secured the second undefeated regular season in 6 years. These wins gave WVU its first Big East title. But most of all, these were come-from-behind victories, wins that showed the true Mountaineer spirit, wins that turned 1993 from what would have been a good year into a great year. First was Miami. In previous years, the Hurricanes were the undisputed champs of the Big East, and they came into Morgantown confident that WVU was just another pebble on their road to success. Differing opinions were held, however, by the more than 70,000 people who packed Mountaineer Field. The Mountaineers had a mission to fulfill of their own, and Miami stood squarely in their path to the top. The first half was maddening to the West Virginia faithful. The defense handed the offense numerous opportunities to score. All but one, Tom Mazzone's 22-yard field goal, were not taken advantage of. It was a hard, mean game, a game you might suspect would be 3-0 at the half. The 1993 West Virginia-Miami contest was looking a lot like the '75 Pitt game. Miami struck the first blow in the second half, driving 80 yards to wrest the lead from the Mountaineers. That touchdown was answered quickly by Jake Kelchner, leading West Virginia on a 13-play, 66-yard scoring drive, topped off by a 1-yard touchdown pass to Rodney Woodard. The lead was 3. But again, Miami stormed back. Ryan Collins was in trouble off a WVU blitz, and in desperation found A.C. Tellison on the West Virginia 2. Donnell Bennett then scored. Miami's lead was 4 with 12:21 left in the final quarter. The Mountaineers needed the defense to hold, and they did, forcing a punt that Mike Baker almost returned for a score. Nonetheless, it gave West Virginia great field position and set up a sophomore from Huntington to extend WVU's undefeated season.
Mountaineers down by 4. Here's Walker. Walker left side. Walker 10 more girls score. Mountaineers lead.
The Mountaineers had the lead to the ecstasy of the entire state of West Virginia. But 6 excruciating minutes still remained to be played. The defense met the challenge. And when Jay Kearney made the catch of the game and Rashawn Vanderpool turned a nifty reverse into a first down, it was over. The defeat of the 4th-ranked team in the country. But most importantly, first place in the Big East and a lot more respect from the rest of the nation. So there they were, 4 quarters away from another perfect season. In 1988, it had been Syracuse in the way. This night, it would be Boston College. BC was fresh off of its huge upset of Notre Dame just 6 days before. And now the Eagles were at home in front of their fans, ready to spoil the Mountaineers' party. Unlike the Miami game, where WVU missed several early scoring chances, it was BC who was self-destructing with help from the Mountaineer defense. West Virginia could not punch it in either, and Tom Mazzone's field goal early in the second quarter was all the scoring for the half. BC finally took advantage of awful WVU field position in the third quarter to assume the lead and build it to 14-3. We'd seen this the week before, down early in the fourth quarter with the whole season at stake. And once again, the Mountaineers were up to the task. A WVU offense that had been lethargic for most of the game suddenly came to life under quarterback Darren Studstill, in for the injured Jake Kelchner. West Virginia immediately moved upfield, topped off by Rodney Woodard's 6-yard clear sail into the BC end zone. The 2-point conversion failed, and still the Mountaineers had 5 points to make up. Don Nehlen had admitted that his team needed a bit of luck to go undefeated. He got that bit of luck. Steve Perkins wanted to make the tackle behind the line. Instead, he got his hands on the ball. Mike Logan picked up the Eagles' fumble, and WVU was back in business. It finally came down to this play. Darren Studstill to Ed Hill.
Studstill firing for the end zone. And a catch to the end zone. Touchdown, West Virginia, as the ball is pulled in by Ed Hill. Tightly covered. Hill gave the defensive guy a little push. He pulls it in, and the Mountaineers take a 15-14 lead. Holy smokes.
The subsequent 2-point conversion prevented Boston College from winning with a field goal. Mike Logan's key interception in the end zone stopped the final BC drive and sealed the victory. Mountaineers everywhere breathed a sigh of relief. This 17-14 victory left the Mountaineers undefeated and ranked 3rd in the nation. They came home to a well-deserved hero's welcome. West Virginia fans will never forget these 4 great victories. And that memorable score of 17-14 will always have a warm place in our hearts. I hope you've enjoyed reliving these great moments as much as I have.
This has been a presentation of the Mountaineers Sports Network.